Hello and welcome to Super OK, where we try to do a decent enough job to entertain people with our opinions on video games. My name is Dale, and I am here with an absolutely amazing host, and her name is Mel.
Hi.
Mel, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. And may I say that you are also an amazing host?
Aw. You didn't have to, but I'll take it. That was not me fishing. That was just me being excited to be back on an episode with you.
Same.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's been a minute or two. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you know, we've both been doing stuff.
Yeah.
So that's great. This is a video game podcast, but every week we like to start out with our highlight of the week, which is where we explain something exciting that happened to us this week, or in some cases, just in the recent past. And maybe you can explain to me and the viewers where you've been and what's been going on.
For sure. So the reason why we haven't been on a podcast together in quite a while is because I went on a long extended vacation to Thailand, and that's where my family is mostly from. And my sister got married last year in Thailand, so she could celebrate with all of our family and like some of her friends that are still in Thailand.
And by last year, what date are you talking about? I'm
talking about like December 30th of
like 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago. So it was an exciting time being able to just like be back in Thailand, seeing some of my family, but also having like family friends from the States go to Thailand for her wedding, and being able to take all of these people that they've never been to Thailand before to some of like my favorite places in Thailand, trying to show them like some of the historical sites that like exist within the city, and being able to just show them like, you know, different really cool places. Like there's awesome museums that are there. There are really cool like local temples. Some of the temples are very like very old, very traditional, like they've existed for like over 200 years. So being able to show them some of those items were just incredible to kind of like see the looks on their face to be like, wow, like this is a place that I would have never thought I'd ever be here. So it was just really nice being able to eat all of like the good food. The weather was really nice. Like I think it was 94 degrees over in Thailand, and I came back to Michigan and it was like, oh, it's 15 degrees today. Oh. So it's just such a dichotomy.
Oh man.
So yeah, as much as I'm happy to be back home, I'm kind of a little bit homesick from not being in Thailand and celebrating and seeing my family. That's about it.
I mean, it sounds awesome. What was your favorite part of the trip?
Ooh, my favorite part of the trip. That's a really, really great question. My sister's wedding was definitely a highlight, but her bachelorette party was probably up there too, because we ended up going to this like drag queen show in Thailand, and it was probably like one of the best, you know, drag queen shows I've ever been to, because some of the queens were on like RuPaul's Drag Race UK.
Oh, wow.
And some of like the bigger like TV shows like in Bangkok, like drag queen TV shows in Bangkok. And the queens were stunning. Like the atmosphere was great and amazing. And I loved it. I just loved how inclusive like that whole entire thing was. And just the people there were amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can officially state that I've never been to an event where there were drag queens where I didn't have fun.
Yeah.
You know, like,
that's true.
Like there's just something, and it doesn't matter if it's like, you know, a drag queen bingo or burlesque show, or even my sister-in-law's library did a thing where drag queens did story time.
I love that.
And even that was amazing.
Yeah.
So there's just something about someone being authentically who they want to be, and
Right.
and removing inhibitions and all of that. That makes it really easy for people around them to have a great time. And
Absolutely. And it's like so inspiring to like see these women just like wanting to just be part of that spotlight, right? Like, and they have
Mhm.
dressed up and they look freaking gorgeous and they just want to spread that amongst other people. And I just love that. I just like praise all of them.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, and it's one of those like wild things where it's like, everybody's always like, "Oh, it's so brave for you to be you." It's so, and it's like, yeah, I guess so, but for them, it really is.
Yeah,
So
for
it's
them,
like,
yeah, and I applaud them every time I see them. I'm just like, you are amazing. Like what
Yeah.
you are doing is amazing, and I just can't get enough of you.
Yeah, it's cool. Very cool.
What about you, Dale? Like, what has been your highlight of the week?
So mine is not nearly as grandiose, but it's still pretty good. I have some friends of mine, Brian and Angie, who have two Lilins, right? Like a 4-year-old and a like 1.5, 2-year-old.
Okay.
Like somewhere in that range. And so I love hanging out with them, but that oftentimes, because they're tiny little babies, means we're going over to their house. We're like having dinner with the kids, and then like waiting for them to put them to bed, and then we'll like play a board game quietly downstairs, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, and now we have to all go to bed because the kids are going to wake up at a specific time, and so we'll leave at like 10 o'clock, which for Ange and I is pretty early in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
We got no kids. Last night, however, they decided that they were going to get a babysitter.
Oh.
And so they got a babysitter, and we hung out, and ironically enough, they only had the babysitter until 10 o'clock because that's still their bedtime,
Sure.
But
Yeah.
we were able to go to Detroit Shipping Co., which is this great little conglomeration of restaurants, and there's like a bunch of seating, and we were able to like all eat and have a good ruckus time. We played some board games there instead,
Lovely. Yeah.
which was fun. And the game that they brought to play is one called The Crew. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
Nope. Tell me about it.
It is like a trick-taking game, like a euchre, right?
Okay.
But it's fully cooperative.
Interesting. Okay.
And so the way that the game works is like at the beginning, there's all these different missions. It's like there's like a storyline to it, right? You're astronauts, you're going into space, that sort of thing. And in order to succeed at doing space stuff, certain people have to end up with certain cards at the end of the game. So just like in a regular deck of cards, there's like 4 suits. The cards go from 1 to 9. And then there's 4 trumps, and those trumps go from 1 to 4, right? You can't play offsuit. So if you're familiar with euchre, like that rule still applies. And then what'll happen is in the middle, there's like these objective cards that say like at the end of the game, you have to end up with the 5 of triangles or whatever, right? And then you draft those objective cards. And then if at any point somebody doesn't get one of those cards, you have failed the mission. Right?
Okay.
And so it's like, if I needed to get the 5 of triangles, but Ange got it instead, we failed. All of us as a team, right?
Right.
So we're all trying to work together to make sure that the right cards go to the right people. But you can't communicate. You can't talk about what's in your hand.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
And so it makes it really, really difficult. The only way you can communicate is if you have a card that is either your highest card, lowest card, or only card of a suit. You can put that out, and you get 1 token that you can put on that card, where like at the top to show it's the highest, at the bottom to show it's the lowest, or in the middle to show it's your only.
Gotcha.
And so, and you only get 1 of those tokens a like
round
trick or whatever,
okay.
right? And so, oh no, a round, not a trick.
Okay.
Because obviously a trick is like 10 or a round is 10 tricks. I'm good at math, I promise. And so it's crazy because then the game is like, oh, well, now you have to collect this card before you can get this other card. Or now you have to do it, but one person can't communicate. Oh, it turns out that this round, one of you is sick. And so that person is not allowed to take any tricks. And that's the whole victory condition. And so it changes as the story progresses and as you're like orbiting the moon and on your way to Mars. We almost made it to Mars last night. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So if you like trick-taking games, if you like cooperative games, I would highly recommend The Crew. If you like just good food and a good atmosphere, I would highly recommend Detroit Shipping Co. I think I've talked about it several times in the past. But yeah, it was and if you have kids and you would like to get away from those children for an evening, I would highly recommend a babysitter.
I love Detroit Shipping Co. They have like some of the best foods, like that Jamaican like Caribbean food stall that's there is probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, I have never eaten there because I know the food would be way too spicy for me. I would explode. Yeah,
that's fair. That's absolutely fair. The jerk chicken is pretty spicy.
Yeah, Tubbs got the jerk ribs and could not finish them because they were so spicy. But he wanted to. He was like looking at them and like trying to take a bite, and then was like, "Nope, I can't do it."
Oh man, that's unfortunate. We gotta somehow bring your spice tolerance up. Like, just start adding black pepper to everything.
Oh God, I would just die. I would just be a dead man. And then, unlike in video games, I would have a funeral instead of just respawning. Because unlike in video games, there's no checkpoints in real life.
It's very true.
Today, by the way, we're talking about checkpoints in video games. Hey, we got there. The very first checkpoints in games were actually in racing games where you had to reach a point in a certain amount of time or your race was over. It was basically saying like, hey, if you didn't get here, you sure as hell ain't winning. But if you were able to reach that checkpoint, it meant that you were safe. You had a chance of still winning the race, which is great. That terminology eventually bled over into other games where these checkpoints were indications that your progress had been saved, and that if you were to die, you would start over from that checkpoint instead of from the beginning of the game. Remember, old games, arcades, designed to like eat your quarters, and so it wasn't like go to the beginning of the level, it was go to the beginning of the game. In fact, early checkpoints were oftentimes just the beginning of a level. But they have evolved so much since then. So we're gonna check it out and see what checkpoints are all about. All right, let's start with an easy question. What's your favorite checkpoint and why?
All right, I love in Undertale when you go and find a checkpoint. It talks about like there's a descriptor of like where you're currently at. Like, so sometimes you could be like in a cave and like the cave lighting, and then it would say something along the lines of fills you with determination. And every single checkpoint is just like that. So it feels like you are hitting a checkpoint and like you're making progress within the game because like it fills you with determination to like keep moving you forward. I also have read on some Reddit forums that maybe it's not determination that they're really trying to tell you about like making progress, but determination, like it's preventing you from being terminated within your game. And I was like, oh, that's such an interesting point because checkpoints are a way for you not to get terminated.
Oh, that is interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
Huh, I did not think about that wordplay there. That's cool.
Right, me either. And people were just like saying like, yeah, that's the whole purpose of it. And I'm like, that is so fucking clever.
Yeah. That's funny. That's really funny. Now, I don't want to spoil Undertale for any of our listeners, but I have only played Undertale once, and I only played it one specific way.
Okay.
Where I didn't kill nobody, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you played it a different way, and does that change what the checkpoints do?
I have played it a different way, and it doesn't necessarily change what the checkpoints do, but it does change the ending of the game and like
Okay.
what like you would see at the very very end. Because like I tried doing a pacifist run. That's the run where you
Yep.
don't kill anybody. And at the very end of the game, I was like getting really irritated by like this one boss, and I was like, I'm just gonna fucking murder you. And that was probably what killed my pacifist run, to be honest. But it
Fair.
was, yeah.
The fact that you were able to get there, I mean, you love murder. The fact that you were able to get
I
there is
know.
pretty impressive. So, yeah. My favorite checkpoint of all time, I think, has to be the gates in the Sonic levels where you hit it and it spins around based on how fast you're
Ooh.
going and all of that. I love it. It has a great sound to it. It has a really good visual that conveys the speed that you're at when you're going through it. But also, these motherfuckers, depending on how many rings you got, can also lead to bonus levels.
Ooh.
And so that's just like, ooh, a little bit of extra icing on that cake, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I love them. And I don't just love them for the bonus levels. I also love them just because it's like they're so satisfying to hit, you
I
know?
agree. Yeah. Every single time I watch like a Sonic speed run or something like that, just the lighting and the visual of everything just like flashing on the screens, just like, ooh, shiny. Like, keep doing that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. The sound really, I don't think we talk about the sound design in Sonic enough because it is so good. Even like getting hit and all your coins
Mhm.
going everywhere is so sad. It's just like all so well done from a sound design
That
perspective.
jingly noise of like just the rings exploding just sounds so good, so crispy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right. So, before we get too deep into specific checkpoints, I do want to point out the fact that some games used to have lives and now only use a checkpoint system, right? Or
Mhm.
some games like back in the day, it was like, all right, you have a certain number of lives, and then when those are done, it's game over. And now a lot of games only use checkpoints, so there's not really a way to like have a game over screen at all.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a little bit of a choice that game developers would make in terms of how they are developing their like game design, the level design, and what the difficulty would be, you know? So in
Mhm.
that way, like if you're going to lose all your lives and start from the beginning again, it's like, okay, you're adding like that little level of more level of difficulty to your game. But I also kind of feel that maybe it's a like a technological advancement as well, because like back in the day when you played games, like the RAM, the CPU usage like on these like consoles were a lot smaller than they are now, so it was
Mhm.
easier for a game developer to just make a one shot game, to just have you lose the lives and start over again, because they wouldn't have to worry about saving those checkpoints within your game. So I think there's like a little bit of a mix between, you know, is it actually a choice, or is it more like, now that we have the technology, let's just do it?
That's interesting. That is, I hadn't considered that. Um, and part of the reason that I hadn't considered that is when thinking about this question, I immediately thought about Crash Bandicoot
Hmm.
on the PlayStation, which is a weird one because it is a game that features checkpoints inside of levels where if you die, you restart at that checkpoint. But also, it has lives where if you lose all of your lives, it's game over, except for the fact that it also has continues where
Oh,
if you use a continue, you start back from that level, but not from your checkpoint, right?
interesting.
Or I've also seen it where it's like games have checkpoints and then lives and then continues, and then continue starts you back at like the beginning of the world,
Yeah, like
right?
in Mario.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
And so it's just really in my mind, all of these different things kind of blend into the fact that they're different checkpoints,
Sure.
just with like different degrees of negative reinforcement for failing,
Yeah.
you know? Like, oh, you failed this many times, well, now you have to go back even further, like deal with it, like
Right.
that sort of thing. And so I actually, and in later Crash Bandicoots, they get rid of that system, and it's now it becomes just like hey, there's just checkpoints,
Oh,
you
interesting.
you can just start over from that checkpoint as many times as you need to.
Mm,
And I think it does a couple things. One, it lowers the stakes,
sure.
right? It obviously makes failure feel less absolute, which is
Hmm.
going to make you feel less bad about being bad at the game, which I think is
Yeah.
in general a good thing, right?
Right.
Anytime that a game discourages you from playing it, that's probably a bad thing. We play games to have fun. Discouragement is oftentimes not fun,
Right.
um, unless it's leading up to something. I think about like the Souls games where it's like without discouragement there would be no like moment of release when you finally beat it.
Right.
Uh, and so you need some sort of discouragement, but you don't want it to build up to the point where you're like, "Oh fuck this, I'm done."
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of the Souls like game, I think this kind of like leads into our next question,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Uh
So our next question is obviously one of the most iconic modern checkpoints is the bonfires from Souls like. They not only save your progress, but they also refill your resources at the cost of respawning all enemies in the world. So not just in the area, everywhere. You kill an enemy, and if you never touch a bonfire again, that guy never comes back, which is kind of crazy.
hmm.
What do you think about this risk reward system? And have you seen other games do something similar to this?
Okay, I don't like this, and this is gonna kind of like put question number 2 and 3 together because like I hate it when you make all this progress in a game and you're bad at games like me, especially when it comes to like Souls like games where it feels more like a punishment than like for making progress. Because like when I was playing Elden Ring, there were so many times where I would clear like the area around my campfire because I was like, I don't want to have to fucking deal with these people like, and this is my first like Souls like game and I should have fucking known better, but I would like clear out the like surrounding areas of my bonfire and then I'm like, okay, well, I'm running out of health or like I'm running out of like stamina or whatever. I'm going to go to my bonfire, recapture all of that and then make more progress. And then as soon as I did that, I was like, oh god, like all these enemies came back, like now I have to clear it all again. Like I just was like, why am I doing this? Like it doesn't feel like I'm making progress. And it kind of, and I think that's like one of the other reasons why like I don't really like Souls like games because I feel like I'm not doing enough. Like I'm not pushing myself even further to, progress the game. But I guess
That's
like there's a like for I guess in some games like it's nice that like you have these respawning enemies so you can like level, but for me I'm just like nah, this is like not worth my time.
That's really interesting because Elden Ring was my second Souls-like game,
Mhm.
and my first one was Demon Souls, the remake on the PS5. And when I was playing Demon Souls, I did the exact same thing as you, where I was like, okay, I've got my bonfire. I'm going to clear out the area around it. Oh shit, I had to use 2 flasks or whatever
Right.
um, while I was doing that. I better go like refill my flasks. Oh, all of my enemies are back. Okay, I better clear them out again. All right, now I only had to use 1 flask. Oh, I guess I'm getting better, right? Like
Yeah.
that was kind of my thought around it. And luckily, I happened to be streaming while I was doing this, and somebody was like, "Hey Dale, you you can just run past him, man."
That person deserves an award.
And I was like, "Wait, what? I
I
can
can
just
run
run
past
past him?
them.
Really? I don't have to kill everything?" Because in most games, you think about it, and you're like,
I,
I've got to clear them out because otherwise they're going to come at me, like
right.
whatever. Nope, not in the Souls-like games, and so you can just run past them.
Oh my god.
And because you have fought them so many times, okay, there's one here, and there's one here, and there's one here. And then once you run past them, if you run far enough, they just lose interest in you, which I was not anticipating, which is crazy.
My
because
brains.
because it makes me really like this give and take that the bonfire system has, because it makes getting to the next bonfire really seem like an achievement, right? Because
Sure.
anytime you start at that first bonfire, all of the enemies are going to be there in between. And it's like, okay, how far can I get before I run out of resources? I died. I ran out of resources. I died. Go back. Can I make it back to where I was before I run out of resources? Turns out I can. Awesome. I get all of that stuff that I lost back. And now I made it a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further. And so there's actually strategy in like choosing where you die so you don't lose all of the souls that you've collected, choosing like which routes you're going to take, what you're going to explore versus what you're not going to explore. Like, do you just beeline to the next bonfire, or do you go down that weird dark hallway that might have some cool weapon at the end of it? Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
all of this stuff that the bonfire system really enhances inside Souls likes that really makes me enjoy what's going on there.
That's crazy. I never thought of it that way. And that makes so much more sense. Like, I don't understand how I've lived my whole entire life not realizing that I could just like walk past enemies.
I mean, it took someone telling me, right? It's
Yeah.
very, very counterintuitive.
But it makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, like if you want to make that progress, why waste your time trying to fight all of the things? Just move forward. And I guess it's a little bit of like me trying to be like a completionist, like a perfectionist in terms of like I need to clear out everything because I'm so used to doing that in certain games where like I have to literally like think about that like if I were to play another Souls like game to go, nope, don't just you can just leave that enemy there. It'll be fine. It will be fine.
Yeah. I definitely also suffer from like that RPG OCD where you're like, I want to do everything. I want to see everything. I want to fight and kill everything.
Right. Destroy every single box.
Yep, exactly. And so realizing that is a path to ruin in Souls-like games changed the way that I play the games completely, and really made me enjoy bonfires as opposed to it feeling like a punishment.
Right.
So I don't know. The other game that has a really cool risk reward system with their checkpoints is Hollow Knight. Have you played Hollow Knight?
I think I played Hollow Knight once.
Okay.
But like maybe for like a couple of hours. It's a platforming game, so like it's not really my cup of tea, to be honest.
Right, exactly. I didn't know if you had any interaction with it. So for our listeners who might not have put any hours into Hollow Knight, first off, you should. It's a great platforming game. If you like platformers, play it. But secondly, their checkpoints in that game make it to where you have a choice when you get to them. If you just touch the checkpoint, it acts as a regular checkpoint. So you walk past it, a little flame lights in it to show that it's your current checkpoint, and you're good to go. But it also takes damage. And so if you hit the checkpoint, the little like ball holding the flame will crack. And then if you hit it enough, the whole checkpoint will crack and it will release a shit ton of money. Like a whole lot of money.
Oh.
But now there's no orb to contain the flame, which means it no longer functions as a checkpoint.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah. And so what you can do is if you know a level really well, or you know you're going to be able to make it to the next checkpoint or whatever, there's this cool risk reward system of like, you can every checkpoint that you reach, you can bash the shit out of it and take the money the first time you get to it.
Yeah.
And then it's a question of like, are you going to be able to make it to the next checkpoint? Are you going to be able to make it to the end of the level? Or are you going to have to start the entire level all the way over because you have beaten up every checkpoint because you're really like ultra greedy? Or is it like, oh, I've died to this checkpoint enough times to where I know, okay, now I'm going to be able to make it to the next one. This is the time when I crack the checkpoint. So I get the money. And now, do I make it to the next checkpoint, or did I just set myself back even further? And so it's just a really, really cool way of like rewarding you for kind of increasing the difficulty and removing that safety net. I think it's awesome.
That is really, really cool. Like, yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that Hollow Knight had that type of checkpoint system, because I think as far like the farthest I've made into Hollow Knight, like I remember that you just had to sit on a bench. That's about it. I didn't know that there was like a lantern thing that you had to like you could interact with.
Oh
and it
my
was
god,
like
I've been saying Hollow Knight this whole time, and I meant Shovel Knight.
Oh, you meant Shovel Knight? Oh, okay. Well, now I understand. So it's
I'm
Shovel
so
Knight.
sorry.
Okay.
I'm so sorry to everyone. Shovel Knight is an awesome 8-bitty platformer that is not a Metroidvania like Hollow Knight is. Oh my god, why are there so many good games that end in night?
Knight? I don't know. But I understand how you could have gotten that mixed up, though.
By the way, listeners, you can stop typing your angry comment in the Discord about how I mixed up Hollow Knight and Shovel Knight. I'm so sorry. I have Michael Caine crying at the end of Batman. I'm sorry I failed you. Holy shit. But yeah, Shovel Knight does this. Hollow Knight does not have checkpoints like this. They're benches. You're 100% correct.
Okay. Yeah, I was just like, mind is blown. Like, did I make it that far in the like the Hollow Knight? And I like didn't make it that far. Sorry.
Oh my god.
I was like, dang. But that makes a lot of sense now.
I'm gonna correct it in. I wrote Hollow Knight in the outline also, which is what threw me off. I'm just like, yeah, Hollow Knight has this. It's great.
Yeah.
No, it's Shovel Knight.
Yeah, if I haven't played Hollow Knight before, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, no, it's Shovel Knight. Have you played Shovel Knight, by the way?
I have not, so I don't even know if it's true that you could.
I promise you it's true. Oh man, my poor addled brain. Anyway, if you like platformers, play Shovel Knight and play Hollow Knight. They're both fucking masterpieces.
Yeah. So more about Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight. There's multiple games of Shovel Knight, or is there just like one?
So there's like one main one, which is Shovel Knight, and that it plays a lot like Mega Man or that sort of thing, where it's like, hey, there's all these different guys, and you go through and you like beat them and that sort of thing.
Sure.
And then there's like Plague Knight, which is like Shovel Knight, but you play as a different character. And then there's like all these other weird games that are in there, like King of Cards. I think it's a Shovel Knight card game that I haven't really gotten into. The Shovel Knight like Treasure Trove, I think is what it's called, has all of them in it, but I've really only spent time in the main Shovel Knight, and I played a little bit of Plague Knight.
Okay.
But yeah, they just like refuse to stop making Shovel Knight games, basically. And they were also just like, yeah, these are all also included in your game. I think it's because it was like a crazy like Kickstarter thing, There's actually, I just looked it up. There's Shovel Knight Shovel of Hope, which is the main game that everybody thinks about. Then there's Shovel Knight Plague of Shadows, where you play as Plague Knight. Then there's Shovel Knight Spectre of Torment, which is a prequel where you play as Spectre Knight, who like can wall run and like crazy shit like that. Then there's King Knight, and he plays like a card game, King of Cards. And then there's also Shovel Knight Showdown.
Interesting.
Which is like a competitive version of Shovel Knight. I've never played any of those last ones. I've only spent time I beat all of Shovel Knight, and then I spent a little bit of time on Plague of Shadows, and was like, this is good, but I got other stuff I got to do.
Fair enough. I was just really curious if like all of the checkpoints like in the Shovel Knight series were very similar to the original Shovel Knight game.
I don't remember, and I guarantee that hurt Zando's heart to hear me say that. So, sorry, Zando. All right. Some games only let you save at checkpoints. What do you think about this?
Fuck that. Fuck that so hard. I just finished playing Chrono Trigger for the SNES for the first time, and I swear saving at the checkpoints are so freaking annoying because there was a point at the very end of the game where you have to fight big baddies, like bosses back to back to back,
Yep.
and you cannot save in between. I can't tell you how many times I was just like dying and then having to start all over again trying to fight the three bosses in a row. And like for me, like sometimes like it takes you a while to like understand the mechanic of the bosses, so I'm sitting there like 6 or 7 times trying to beat this one boss and then going on to the next boss. And then I'm like, well, now I'm on this next boss. Like, I have to stop and like go do something real quick, and I can't save in the middle of the in between bosses. And I'm like, like this is so annoying. And on top of that, too, like because Chrono Trigger is somewhat of an open world game where like you can traverse from like one time to the next in like different areas of the world. Like I have to physically like seek out certain checkpoints to pause my game, and if I don't do that, then like I could be making all of this progress, like an hour's worth of progress, and then lose it instantly because I died by something super dumb.
Yeah,
and it's just so frustrating.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you when it comes to RPGs. I think when RPGs do this, it is total fucking bullshit. And I think some of it is a cop out in that they anytime that you can save in those games, it also refills all of your resources.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so it means that they never have to like have you save with half health, for instance. So they don't have to record how much health you have.
Right.
You know, like they don't have to record how much magic or MP or whatever it is that you have. And so I get that shouldn't be easy. But what really pisses me off is games where it's like you can only save at checkpoints, or you can buy a tent. And a tent lets you save wherever you want, but you have to have 500 gold or whatever to be able to use a tent. And it's like, this is such bullshit. Do not make me buy a fucking item in the game just so that I will not be late to dinner with my wife. Yeah. You know, like you should let me save anywhere. I don't care. Just let me save anywhere. In RPGs. In platformers, I actually don't care about this. If it's a platformer and it only lets you save at checkpoints, that's totally fine to me, because realistically, platformers are short enough levels where it's like, I'm going to get through it. I'm going to get to the next checkpoint. I'm going to be able to hit the save button, right? Yeah. Or I'm going to die, go back to the last checkpoint, and oh no, I lost 3, 5, 10 whole minutes of progress, but I got to save, right? So I think that those are two very different beasts. But yeah, man, it is such total, absolute, ridiculous bullshit when an RPG pulls this.
Absolutely. So. How do you feel about a game like Only Up, where it's a platforming game, but there are no checkpoints?
That's a really good question, actually. I think that part of the reason that Only Up and Getting Over It and all, Jump King, all of those different like rage bait games work is because there's no checkpoint, there's no save point, that sort of thing. The stakes are constantly at an all-time high. You can always fall. You can always reset your progress. And that's realistically the only reason those style of games work, to do what they want to do.
Sure.
Right. There is a game that I have watched a bunch of people play, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it's called, but you're two penguins who are like roped together.
Oh, and I've seen that.
So it's like a co-op platforming game. And one of the things that game, it plays exactly like a Getting Over It or an Only Up or whatever. But one of the things that game lets you do is set a checkpoint before like a stressful situation. And I think that is so that you don't literally kill your partner
Yeah,
you
I
know?
understand that.
And so when you look at a game like Only Up, they want that feeling of rage. They want you to
Sure.
feel like, oh, I'm so upset at myself because I know I'm the reason that I fell here,
Right.
right? And that's part of the reason why those games like get updated to make sure that their physics are always on point and
Mhm.
there's no like clipping through stuff. There's none of because if the game isn't perfect as far as its fairness, then it's like this was bullshit and I'll never play it again.
Right. Right.
You know, so you've got to really strike that balance. What are your thoughts about those style of games, though?
I mean, like, there's a purpose why there are no checkpoints, and that's, the sole reason is because they want to make it that difficult. They want you to make that progress because the stakes are even higher, the risks are even higher as you traverse through those type of like jumping puzzles or whatever.
Yeah.
Personally, like I wish that there was like a casual mode, and then there was also like a, what do you call it? Like
Competition or
a
something.
competition mode. Yeah. So in that way, like you can practice certain sections of the jump maps or platforming maps. So like, cause I've seen some people who like try to like speed run it or whatever. And I'm like, how do you practice for these things? Because like you die at one spot trying to figure out what's the optimal path, and like you have to start from the very beginning every single time. Like
Yeah.
I would be so frustrated in that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
frustrated.
Yeah. My guess is like they're probably using save states and that sort of thing to be able to
Yeah.
practice like the difficult tricks and all that. I just watched an Only Up speed run where the guy had to jump on top of a Tyrannosaurus head and then wait for the character's idle animation where they shift their weight. And so it changes where their feet are. And then immediately after that, move like 2 pixels forward to put their feet back in the perfect space and then like fly up. And I don't know how you practice that without save states.
Right. Yeah,
Like
that's crazy.
it's absolute insanity. Absolute wildness. All right. So we've been talking about checkpoints. We've talked about what our favorite items that are checkpoints are, but do you have a specific checkpoint from a game that you remember fondly? I want to go first on this one because I've
Okay.
got a pretty good story. The original Super Mario Brothers had checkpoints, but they were unmarked and invisible, and so you didn't know where they were. This meant that sometimes in Super Mario Brothers 1, you would die, and then you would get a sense of relief that you didn't have to start the whole level all the way over. You could be in the middle of the level, maybe. This was immediately abandoned in future games because it was a bad idea to not let a player know when they had progressed, but it always got me hyped when I like accidentally discovered one. So in Super Mario Brothers 7-1, there's some Hammer Bros that are just hopping around, and they killed me like once or twice. And I finally got past them. I had 2 lives left. And I'm like running through the rest of the level. And I die to a different Hammer Bro later in the level. And I was like, well, I'm fucked. There's no way I'm going to get past all these Hammer Bros. And then bam, wild bonus checkpoint that puts me directly in front, like directly past the first set of Hammer Bros.
Yeah.
What I love about this is that it was far enough forward that you were just before a pipe, and the Hammer Bros could still see you, so they could still throw hammers. And you know how when they jump, like the one hammer goes way further than all of their other ones? That one could still hit you. So you weren't allowed to just like sit there on your laurel, like rest on your laurels. But you had to get moving. But I had a life left. And so I didn't have to fight those Hammer Bros again. And I was able to make it through the level. And it's also one of those levels that has a Buzzy Beetle on the stairs at the end. And so I was able to do the like infinite loop where you jump on it over and over again, get a whole bunch of free guys that I farmed up, go on, beat the game. It was absolutely amazing. It was one of those things where it was just like, this invisible fucking checkpoint saved my whole ass. It was so good. I was so hyped. I screamed when it happened.
I love that. I really wish I had a particular checkpoint that I could remember fondly. But like honestly, like I'm just really happy that I get to a checkpoint because it just it makes me realize that like I've progressed very far in the game.
Yeah. I totally get that. Like, just realizing that sense of progression is like a huge thing. So that makes a lot of sense.
Because then I know, like, for a fact that, like, if I die, like, here, I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I can restart at that one checkpoint. That's about it.
Yeah. All right, what's the flip side of this? Some checkpoints are real bummers. Do you have a most hated checkpoint or a most hated checkpoint type?
So I honestly hate when there is a checkpoint that if you were to progress, further into the game, like into a boss or whatever like that, that when you die at the boss, it takes you back to that one checkpoint, and then you have to walk like 5 minutes or kill like a whole bunch of mobs before you get to the boss again. Like those types of checkpoints really like irritate me because it's like, oh, you're getting like extra punished by this boss that's killing you.
So you hate any checkpoint that involves a run back?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Like, why can't you just have it right before the boss encounter? Like, that would make the most sense, right?
I mean, I get it from a gameplay design standpoint where it's like they want your resources to be depleted before you go into the boss fight. So they want you to feel a little more desperate about it, like that sort of thing. But I agree, it is bullshit.
Who cares?
Like
game devs, who cares? You're not doing any of like your players a service by doing shit like that.
Oh man, that's amazing. Who cares? I love it.
Only the devs care.
Just make the boss a little bit harder. Come on.
Yeah. Seriously, just give it more HP. Make the attacks a little bit more, like, make it harder. Like,
yeah.
But don't make me run like miles to get to where I need to be.
Yeah.
It kills me every time.
So I have two checkpoints that were real bummers for me. The first one is not really a checkpoint, but it gets an honorable mention because it's the game's autosave feature. In Fallout New Vegas, they're like, follow the road to Vegas. Don't go off the road. And I'm like, but I'm just going to go through these mountains here. Why wouldn't I do that? And it takes you through Deathclaw Valley.
Oh.
And it's like real rough, real bad times. So I get through all of Deathclaw Valley. I'm like running. There is a Deathclaw directly behind me.
Oh, God.
And I get into this town. And the game autosaves. Except, as I'm running into the town, there's cabbage on the ground. And so I pick it up. And so the game autosaves with me having just picked up a cabbage off the ground. Which I guess in this town is stealing.
No.
So everyone in the town is angry at me. There's a Deathclaw on my ass. And that's where the game decides to autosave.
I hate when that happens.
And so every time I would die, I was in a hostile town with a Deathclaw on my ass. And there was literally no way for me to like go back, not pick up that stupid cabbage, like all of that. So that's where I stopped playing Fallout New Vegas. It was like 3 hours of gameplay just down the drain. I literally never went back. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
But the worst, without a question, the worst checkpoint I have ever experienced in my whole life was in Kingdom Hearts 1, right before the fight with Riku.
Okay.
Riku, one of the last bosses, very, 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 very hard.
Uh-huh.
Right? Just a very difficult fight. But right before Riku, there is a 2-minute long cutscene.
Okay.
Cutscenes in Kingdom Hearts 1 were unskippable.
No. I know where this is leading to.
So every fucking time you died to Riku, it would take you back to the checkpoint. Then you would have to watch a 2-minute long cutscene before the fight could start.
That feels so bad.
And it's not like a thing where it's like cutscene is over, press A to continue.
Right.
The cutscene ended and you were just in the boss fight. And so you had to like be there ready for the boss fight. You couldn't like walk away. You couldn't like you had to sit there for the whole 2 minutes, because otherwise you might have to sit there for the whole 2 minutes again.
Right.
Shit was ridiculous.
Ugh.
If you are a game developer and you are listening to this episode, the checkpoint goes after the cutscene.
Or you make the cutscene skippable.
Also, every cutscene must be skippable.
Yeah.
If you want to do some fancy magic and make it to where the cutscene isn't skippable the first time because it's really important,
Fine.
I'm fine with that.
Totally fine.
But the second time that a cutscene begins to play on my screen, I need to be able to skip it.
Yeah. God, because that's annoying.
It was so fucking irritating. So irritating.
How did you finish that game then? Because I would have been like done. I would have been like, Kingdom Hearts, like I'm putting you down.
I put so much time into the first Kingdom Hearts that I had to beat it, right? But it was just absolutely miserable to have the checkpoint before the cutscene. Absolutely miserable. All right. Have you ever played a game that lets you set up your own checkpoint? If so, which one? And did you end up using it?
So there's a lot of survival games that are kind of like this, where like you have to build a town and like you have to build a bed, and like where you the only time that you can save your progress within your survival game is to like fall asleep in your bed. And I use that a lot. That's like in a lot of survival games, it's kind of like that. And yeah, that's the only one I can really think of that like allows you to create your own checkpoints like within a game itself. I'm trying to think back of like other ones other than, what you mentioned before when you had like an item that allowed you to like, do your own checkpoint or whatever.
Such bullshit.
I think there was like one Final Fantasy game that was like that, where you had like a save crystal or something. So like every once in a while, like I would use stuff like that, but yeah, mostly just sleeping in your own bed. Best type of checkpoint.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's no secret I've played a lot of skateboarding games, and one of the typical things in a skateboarding game is like, hey, you have this rail in front of you, and you're trying to get this ramp or this gap or this combo or this objective or whatever, and so you'll like go to do it, and you will accidentally over rotate a little bit. You'll miss the rail. You'll land on the ground or you'll bail or whatever. And then you have to get up and go back to the beginning of it and start again. Except almost all skating games these days have the ability for you to set a checkpoint. And so I, being me, will be an idiot and forget about that feature. And I will be in session skate sim trying to like hit a backtail down a rail or a ledge or whatever, and then I will miss or I'll bail, or instead of doing a backtail, I'll do a back 5-0 or whatever, right? And then I get to the bottom and I'm like, well, I did not complete that objective. And now I am at the bottom of a set of stairs, which means that I have to skate around for like 3 minutes to get back to the top of the set of stairs because I am on a skateboard. You can't go upstairs on a skateboard. So you got to like find the ramp and go around, right? And then this will happen 69 times. Jeez. And on the 69th time, I will suddenly remember that I can just hold the down button on the D-pad and to set my own checkpoint and make the pain go away. And then it's like, I have been like bashing my head against this shit for the last 30 minutes. And then it's like, I'm going to get it in the next 3 minutes, because the moment I lock in the wrong trick or I bail or whatever, I can hit the R1 button or up on the D-pad or whatever, and I'm back at my checkpoint. And it's just like, I cannot believe how often I forget about these systems and just like make the game so much more difficult for no good reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I guess like there are a lot of games that have like those quick saves and like the load save points. That like I totally will forget that they even exist, and I'm just like, all right, I'll just wait till like the next major checkpoint in order for me to save. And then I'm like, what am I doing? Like there's like quick saves for a reason. Like let's use it.
Yeah.
Like now I forget about that. It's like stuff like that exists.
Yeah. And to your
Oh my
point
God.
about survival games that have the thing about sleeping in your own bed, there's a bunch of open world games that have similar mechanics where it's like
Mhm.
the last door you went through is your checkpoint or whatever. And
Yeah.
I will totally forget about that. And so I'll just be like doing open world bullshit and then die because I fell off a cliff or like I jumped a horse off a cliff or
Right.
I rolled off a cliff. And then I will have not walked through a door or done whatever the requisite thing is for
Mhm.
like 45 minutes.
Oh
And
God.
it's like, I gotta walk away. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Like
just
even
so
you talking
stupid.
about it, I'm just like feeling the frustration where I'm just like, God damn it. Like I just needed to go and like just save like 30 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. Like,
Yeah.
and now I have to do like a whole almost hour's worth of progress again. Like, ah.
Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous. On the bright side, we can set a checkpoint right here because we're coming up to our last question. This question is sponsored by Regrets. They're trying
Ooh,
out a new slogan that they want us to announce here. That slogan is "Bad decisions are the eggs of regret," which
true.
is both bleak but also relevant based on our previous answer.
Yep.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
the question that Regrets wants us to ask is if you could set up a checkpoint for any one time in your life, when would you set that checkpoint to be?
So there is an ongoing joke amongst my friends about how sometimes I eat too much to the point where I will puke because I just like enjoy the food too much. And this all had spawned to the first time I invited my friends over to like my parents' house to have like boat noodles that they made.
Okay.
Um, and I had like this really like a relatively decent size bowl of it. And it was so good that I was like, man, like I really want to have another one. And that's probably where I should have set up a checkpoint because after I ate the second bowl of noodles, and this is all in front of my friends, I was like, I feel terrible. Like I have eaten so much that like my belly cannot like hold all of it in. So I ended up like throwing up some of it because I just couldn't keep it all inside my stomach.
Oh,
And I'm
jeez.
like, man, I really wish that like I didn't eat that second bowl of noodles. Because now all my friends make fun of me for it. And I always go, yeah, I probably shouldn't eat that much food anymore.
Okay, now legit question because I know exactly what this is like. I've got friends that I give shit for one mistake that they made,
Exactly.
like 20. Has this happened more than once where you've eaten so much that you had to throw up?
Yes.
I love it. I love it so much.
But that was definitely the first time, like
Yes.
that has happened. And then ever since then, I did not learn from my mistake. I
I'm
just
just
kept making
imagining a scenario where you like go back to the boat noodles and you're like, I'm going to only eat like a quarter of another bowl of boat noodles.
right.
And then like 3 years later, you're at a wedding and you like just are vibing on the mastacholi or whatever. You eat too much of it, you throw up and you're like, ah, shit. And then you disappear and you're back to right after the first bowl of boat noodles.
You should have
Oh,
learned
man.
from the first time, Mel.
I love it so much. That's so amazing. Oh man. My answer is uh less fun and more of like a this like if it were in a video game, there would already be a check mark here or a checkpoint here where I was as a child. Some of you may know I fell off the roof of my house.
Wait, what?
I fell off the roof of my house the summer before fifth grade. There's a very long story to it, but the short version of it is uh, my hand slipped. I hit an electrical cord, blacked out, and fell off the roof of my house, bounced off a wood pile, fell on the ground. My two front teeth are fake because of it. All this crazy shit, right?
Whoa.
But the thing about it is, it was so treacherous the way that I got up on the roof of my house, because it was climbing on the bumper of my family's RV, onto the spare tire that was on the back of the RV, onto the roof of the RV, hopping across like an 18-inch gap to get onto the roof of the house. Then I had to climb. My house has 45-degree angle roofs, so it's like scampering, right?
What?
And then to the back area, there's an 18-inch wide gap that goes down to the back gutter that's in the middle of the back of the house, that is also at a 45-degree angle. And then down at the bottom, it's 18 inches off the back of the house, between the back of the house and the gutter, right? And so there's like 900 different places where this could have gone wrong
Yeah.
for a fifth grader. And so I would just like a checkpoint right before falling off my roof to see, if I could have ever done it successfully, I was up there cleaning out the gutters, see if I ever could have cleaned the gutters successfully, or if I should have just called the whole thing off.
Yeah.
Right? I wouldn't have fake teeth today. So, and if you ever want to hear the story of me falling off the roof, it's a 15-minute long story. If you catch me in the Discord in a voice channel, just ask. I'll tell you the story. But I'm not going to do it here. Who knows? Maybe I'll do it as a Patreon special, where I record it just for the Patreon people. We try not to do any content, but that's not video game related. That's just my story. I get to pick when I tell it. So yeah,
Wow.
that would be where I would put my checkpoint.
That is. I think I would have put my checkpoint right before I jumped onto the roof, because I feel like even if you were to have a checkpoint right before you fell off.
I'm still on the ground.
Oh, you're still on the ground. Okay.
I'm on the ground.
I thought you meant
looking at the RV.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to fall out New Vegas myself.
That's what you meant, and I was like, "You're going to have a hard time getting off of that roof, Dale."
No, man. I want to be able to take different approaches to the ascent, the descent, all of. Sure. I want a very different descent. I'll make that abundantly clear. Yeah. So,
your different routes. Got it.
Yes, exactly. I want to try all the different strategies to see if I could have done it, and then if I can't have done it, I would just turn around and go back inside.
This is Baldur's Gate 3 save scumming strats here.
Yes, that is exactly what I want, but IRL.
I approve. I want to see all of those outcomes too.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
all right. So if you would like to tell us where you would like to put a checkpoint, and remember, you can put it before a thing that you failed at, but you can also put it before a thing that you really enjoyed and you just want to be able to experience over and over again, right? This could be a blessing or a curse. Mel and I both chose curses.
We did.
So I guess that says a little bit about our personalities, but tell us about yours in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, it's a real good time. We are having some real hot discourse right now about whether or not a straw has 1 or 2 holes, whether or not a t-shirt has 2 or 4 holes, and whether or not the t-shirt question changes your answer to the straw question.
That is quite the debate that's going on right now.
It is.
Is that in hot takes right now?
It's in hot takes. It's real wild right now. So yeah, hop in there and let us know what your thoughts are. The Discord's a great place to be. You know where else is a great place to be? Where? The Patreon.
Ooh, okay.
Because thank you so much for all the people who are in our Patreon. We could not do this without you. It's a way of keeping the show free. It's totally awesome that you're there. We are immensely grateful for your support. Do you have anything else to say about checkpoints?
Oh, man. What about that Dan guy?
What about him?
Fuck him. Got it.
Oh, man, I bet he wishes he had a checkpoint right before he paid to get carried to the lighthouse. So this never happened. Yeah, fuck Dan. Also, he went through a major surgery, so I hope he's doing all right. So that way we can continue to make fun of him every week on this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Feel better, Dan.
Yeah, feel
But
better.
also, fuck you.
Yeah, but also fuck you, for real. I want your surgery to be fine, but I would like you to stub your toe. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right. I think that's everything for this episode. So tell the people where you can be found.
You can find me on the Discord as Melephant.
Cool. I'm on the Discord and on Blue Sky as a 20-sided ninja. If you're not on Blue Sky, also some real good discourse going on there. So worth checking it out. Beyond that, I guess say goodbye to the humans.
Bye, humans.
Goodbye. Hope you have a super okay day. Thanks for listening. If you're still listening, bye.